Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Welcome to the universe of soul empowerment. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach, and I'm here with three lovely angels of messengers of love, I guess. And today we are going to be talking about. Well, let me back up a little bit. Last month we did a conversation about peace under pressure, and we talked about some of the challenges that we're all facing these days with everything that's going on in the world, and some of the chaos that we're dealing with, and so many political things happening. It's enough to think you're maybe living in a whirlwind. So we thought maybe this time we'll give some actual practical tools. Maybe we can come up with some practical tools for maintaining or connecting back to inner peace and maintaining that inner peace, even when everything around you is complete chaos, complete confusion. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get started with that, I want to make sure I give all my co-hosts a chance to introduce themselves. And today I'm going to start with you, Scott. Say hello. Tell us who you are, where you are, what you do, and why.
And if I did it that quickly, okay. Hi, Scott Holmes from Boston, and I am an intuitive healer, and I deal with professional men and women to bring them back to who they are, to allow them to find themselves, allow them to that quiet space, that sacred space, to be able to listen to who they really are, to be able to come forward and be able to find the joy in their life that may have been missing. And for those of you listening and those of you who are here, hopefully you find some joy in this panel discussion that we have.
Yeah, well, thank you, Scott. And I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad you're a part of this team. Next up, Gayle. Tell us who you are, where you are, what you do, and why.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gayle Nowak. I am a Greater Boston. I support spirit-led coaching leaders in the wellness space who want to market themselves authentically and create healthy business relationships. I use a blend of energy work, healing, and coaching to you create a pathway back to your authentic voice. You can communicate, lead lovingly, and make the world a better place, hiding or yourself. And I'm really interested in this conversation. I wasn't here for the planning meeting, so this is going to be fun, I think, and impromptu. And I think that this conversation around peace is much needed right now, as David alluded to. And I think when you start to have a practice of cultivating that inner peace, regardless of whether things are good or bad or whatever label you want to put on it, it really is a superpower. So I'm excited to see what comes out today. And I'm just so glad to see that we have several people in the room with us today too. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Gayle. Just to let you know, I noticed a little bit of glitchiness in your microphone. So just, if you see me making weird signals like this or something, just kind of maybe check and see if you can fix that, whatever that might be.
Yeah,
I got most of what you were saying. And again, I'm glad you're here as well. And of course, last but by no means least, Sara, please say hello. Tell us who you are, where you are, what you do, and why.
I'm Sara Jane. I'm in the UK. What do I do? All sorts. I work with energy. I channel dragons and mythical beings. I speak light language. I write books. I mean, sort of, as do all of us here. So I love working with people. I love connecting with people, creating connections, supporting people to heal the hurt and trauma with their inner child, to get back to themselves. to have faith and belief and trust in themselves, to love themselves, which is something that majority of us aren't taught to do. So I'm very much like the rest here. We're all in our own unique way. I sort of am I'm creator of Vocal Reiki, founder of Gift of Healing TV. So, and I love everything that I do. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yes, and a lovely nutshell it is too. Thank you so much for that. And so, folks, first of all, I want to say thank you to those of you who are here on the live presentation. It's awesome to have you here. Please feel free to post your questions or comments in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those as we proceed. I think the way I'd like to start this, the question that comes up to my mind is, what is the cost of all this stress that we have to deal with on a daily basis? And for some of us, it's, greater than others, and for some it's less, but all of us are feeling this stress one way or another. And I guess, I know what the cost is for me, but I'd like to get a sense of, in general terms, what's the real cost of all this stress? Who'd like to start with that? Go ahead, Scott.
So what I find is that it brings more fear into our lives. And in talking with people, say just in traveling, oh, I won't go to that part of the world. I won't go to this part of the world because of the things that are broadcast. I won't, fear stops us from doing so many things all the way down the line. Our innate fear, our own ego mind stops us from doing things because of what might happen or what could possibly happen. Now that we have all of this tremendous conflict and friction among so many different aspects of our lives, it stops us from doing those things and makes it very isolated. I find people are unwilling to go beyond, and for me, it's perplexing because it stops people from being who they are and what they can be and what they could do, because that fear base is not allowing them to go further. And that's what I find. And just talking with everyday people in my family, their world is getting much, much smaller.
Right.
And that's what I found.
Well, yeah. And so I'm curious, for you personally, do you find that, well, first of all, I know that you have a good practice for keeping yourself calm and relaxed, and you do meditation, all that kind of stuff, which is awesome. But I noticed that I'm wondering if perhaps you find yourself maybe, I don't know, getting a little more irritable when stress builds up, or perhaps experiencing other kinds of physical responses when there's too much stress in your life. What kinds of things do you experience? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Being from Massachusetts, it's usually while I'm behind the wheel of a car.
Right.
I just drove from Boston to Florida and then back to Boston in 5 days. Mm-hmm. So there's about 3,000 miles in 5 days. And I find it, believe it or not, I find that relaxing. Most people would find that terribly unnerving. But it's I get frustrated with people who don't think through these things, who do, when you're on the highway, you see people do really outrageously silly things that can cause accidents. You're going between 60 and 80 miles an hour, and they make choices that can put people at risk. And that's when it's the funny thing about travel is that there is an unpredictability about it. Now, I planned out where I was going to be, how many miles I was going to go. I planned out my whole days. And the very first day, I was 3 hours later leaving than I planned on it. And when I got just north of Baltimore, I got a tornado warning. And there was a tornado that ripped through the area. And so I was going 35 miles an hour with my blinkers on the highway. looking for somewhere to get off the highway. And as I
Right.
get into the hotel, the woman at the desk says, I have to go home. I just lost my roof. So it was very real stuff. And you, yes, I know. And the funny thing is, I'm always, all right, what's next? I was waiting for locusts later that day, but it didn't happen.
Plague of locusts. Yeah.
So
Right.
when you ask me about the frustrations and all that, it's immediate frustration that comes up. But for me, I try to look at the broader aspect of what can I do about this, and it's very, very logical, very problem solving, and it doesn't get to the point of just overwhelm. And for
Right.
me,
Right.
I know that I can deal with whatever comes forward. And do I get frustrated? Absolutely, about little things in life, about money, about those things. But they're immediate. But then I have that sense of no matter what comes up, we'll be able to deal with it.
Well, we'll deal with the how to handle that kind of situation. I'm more interested right now in the kinds of responses that people have to this extra stress. And I know for me personally, when I'm stressed out, my ego mind is very, very active, and I tend to be reactive to other people. So I'm less patient than I would like to be. I feel like there's pressure to show up in a certain way. That's kind of what happens for me. So I don't know, Sara. What about you? Do you find yourself reacting in any kind of way like that with stress, like maybe I don't know, headaches or some other physical response?
Computers.
Computers are a source of stress for you. Yeah.
They they can technology can frustrate the out of me. It really can. Yet little things within day-to-day life, the thoughtlessness of people. Sort of, we've got a footpath at the side of the house, we've also got a cycle path. And the cyclists cycle on the footpath and the pedestrians walk on the cycle path. It's, excuse me, and the kids, because we've got a school right over the road, the kids coming out of school with their earphones in, looking at their phones, not paying attention to where they're walking.
Right.
Those little things, it's just like, well, and okay, those things didn't exist when I was at school, because we're talking a very long time ago now. It's 50 years since I left school. We were taught to be considerate of other people, to stand back for people, etc., etc. It's just like, what's going on in this world that there is so much of a lack of consideration for others?
Right.
And I know we turn around and we say to people very strongly, be true to yourself, but that is not to the detriment of others.
Right.
So it's not, I'm on my phone, I'm walking down the path and you're going to avoid me. Because actually, I get that I will stop. I will just stand there. Sort of, it's just like, oh, I think, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You're not the only, I'm not the only person in the world. You're not the only person in the world. So yeah, that's a niggle. Driving, I tend to and then release to the light with love, so I do tend to try and do an awful lot of that, so it's, the negative energy is not going out there without being wrapped in love, because we're all human. We're here having a human experience. But obviously, yes, what the rest of this conversation is going to be about is how do we then sort of get through all of that?
Well, you mentioned a couple of nigs. I know that one that's coming up for me lately is being asked to tip for stuff that you want to leave a tip, and it's always asked in the way of like almost emotional blackmail. If you don't tip, then you're a jerk. And I look at it. I remember I was getting my dog groomed, and I paid like $105 to get my dog groomed. And the guy said, "Would you like to add a tip to that?" And I looked at him and I said, You mean you want me to pay extra for something that you already charged me $105 for? Is that what you want? And he kind of went, he didn't try to, I mean, if you're not paying your employees properly, then that seems to be your problem, not mine. Nobody tips me, for doing stuff. I'm not getting paid extra money. So yeah, that's what's going on for me when I get that. And it's a cycle that's happened way too often. Gayle, tell us a little bit about something that how you respond to some of this stress.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of stress in two different ways. The acute stress, of course, I totally perked up when Scott said driving in Massachusetts, anywhere around Boston, but anywhere in Massachusetts. I had an episode yesterday. I'm not one of those folks who likes to use the horn all that much, and I had to use my horn yesterday, and I'll be, Sarah, you're better than me because I did not wrap it in love and light. I just said, why are you doing this stupid thing?
Yeah, right.
Kids
exactly.
are in the car. I'm reacting. I'm talking to somebody who can't even hear me, honking on the horn. Right. And so sometimes it's a little vocal, a little explosive. And your original question was, what's the impact? And, I'm not sure there was all that much of an impact in that circumstance because I felt the stress, I felt the frustration, but I released it.
Right.
And my kids are old enough now. They were in the car with me. They're old enough now to be able to read the room and see what's going on and recognize this isn't, mom's not putting that on me. It's just a weird situation, right? But sometimes there is a cost, right? There's a cost with our relationships. There's a cost with the relationship of ourselves. Maybe I'll be honest, I didn't feel guilty about any of that. It wasn't a wise move what happened on the road yesterday. But sometimes when we're dealing with chronic stress and then there's acute stress on top of that, and it goes sideways, right? The cost might be a relationship, or it might be, holding on to stress might be a cost to our mental wellness, our physical wellness, right?
Right.
So, for me, some of the things that I notice is when I'm kind of in that longer term, might not be chronic, but longer term stressful situations, it's almost like I almost feel like this, like I'm just putting my head down and getting through it. Right? Like that's how I know there's pressure, there's stress, and not all, there's all kinds of literature out there and studies out there about how not all stress is bad, right? Like some stress is catalyzing and activating and gets us into motion and gets us into action. But when you're going through life and you're doing this all the time, that's definitely going to have an impact on how you feel about yourself, how you interact with the world, how you engage with other people. And it can make you sick. It can actually make you sick.
Well, that posture that you demonstrated, that looks to me like I'm defending myself.
Right. Yeah.
I'm protecting myself against some kind of an external force. Well, if you have to do that all the time, I'm sure you're not walking around like this all day long. No, you're not physically doing that, but you feel like that's happening internally. That has a huge amount of cost. That means that stress is operating on you in your physical being,
right,
like constantly. And you've got to do something to release that, to let that go, to kind of open that up and just, because if you don't, that stuff is getting locked in. And that's essentially what that posture does, is it locks it in.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, we have a lot of external influences that try to encourage us to keep locking it in, because after all, you're not allowed to say nasty things to people. You know, you have to be polite. You have to be this, you have to be that. Those are the ways we're supposed to be showing up. So if you do have a reaction, then you got to clean up the mess you make after the fact, which just adds more stress. And so the cycle continues, and it gets harder and harder and harder to live. And so that's what we really want to talk about today, you know, is how do I get away from this and into this? How do I do that? How do I do that consciously in the moment? And so that's what we want to talk about. We called this simple tools for inner peace because each of us has all kinds of tools that we've come up with. Maybe that somebody else taught us, or maybe we just learned it on our own. And my hope here in today's presentation is that everybody who watches this can find something that he or she can take home and use personally, or get inspired to create something for yourself that works even better. That's kind of where we're going with this. And that's why we're calling it simple tools, because we don't want to make these like long involved procedures or anything like that you have to do. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask us all to take a deep breath now and let go of all that imagined frustration that we just poured on ourselves in order to kind of understand what it is that we were feeling. Now just let it all go. We're not in traffic right now. We're not surrounded by other people who are irritating us. We are, in fact, in a very beautiful, loving space in this moment. So let's just enjoy that. Release everything that we might be carrying. Just let it go. Take a deep breath and just let it go. And notice, is there a difference in how you feel right now? Just with that one simple thing, taking a deep breath and letting it go. I noticed a difference. That tightness that I was simulating here, it's kind of gone now. Although there's still a little bit of vibration in my hands. I will notice that. How do you feel? How do you feel when you do that? Just take a deep breath and just let it out. What happens? God, I see you nodding.
Because breath, for me, breath is always that important part. I do what I call a foursquare breath. When something gets overwhelming, when the emotions get welled up, or it just you feel that is I've always used the foursquare. Breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, hold it. If you do that 4 times, foursquare.
So you mean you're doing like a count?
Just doing a count in your head. Yep.
I see.
I tell people go into the bathroom and just sit down. And when you're feeling so that you can't deal with whatever is coming through because of chronic stress, like you mentioned, Gayle, or things that come on top of that. And when we're in that, we react much quicker when we are in that state of frustration or just survival mode. We react much quicker because we're so much closer to the top and so much closer to the edge, right? And so just doing that foursquare breath, it takes 15 seconds, and it just takes everything right back down. And if we're talking about this, the other thing is I always go to my safe place. Now, where my safe place is a beach on Amelia Island in Florida, and I'm sitting in that lawn chair with my feet in the sand, with the sun shining, and the waves just rolling in, and the only thing I hear are the birds and the waves. And for me, that brings me right down to 0. And
so just to be clear, for the purpose of this program, you're not actually getting into your airplane and flying to Florida, except maybe in your imagination.
In my imagination, right? I am correct. In my imagination, I'm there, and it's where somebody says, "Go to your safe place," and I just picture it and I feel it, and that rhythm of the waves and all of that. And it brings whatever I'm feeling right down to zero. I don't physically go there,
Right.
but I can always recreate it for myself.
That's beautiful. So the 4 square, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. You inhale for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and wait, no, I
Hold it
missed
for a
something. Oh,
count of
and
4
hold it
again.
on the bottom for a count of
Yep,
4.
hold it for 4.
Hold the
So
exhale.
you're really
And then
control.
you do
it's
that
control
4
breathing.
times.
Do it so it's square, 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 4 times.
Got it.
And at the end of that kind of 15 seconds, all of a sudden everything is just gone. All that
Nice.
overwhelm is gone.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and you're right. Pretty much anything involving the breath is going to be helpful. And one of the reasons that I know that to be true is because when I'm focusing on my breath, I'm focusing on what's happening right now. So that brings me into the present. That brings me into this current moment. And it helps me not to think so much about, worrying about what was happening in the past or whatever's going to happen in the future, but being right here, right now. So the breath is really, really useful for that purpose.
And when you're counting
Gayle,
in your
you had
head, by the way, when
I'm
you're
sorry.
counting in your head, you can't think about anything else.
Right. You're
Or
thinking of those
or
numbers. Right. Yeah.
the only thing is it's right there. And you're right
Yeah.
about being
Beautiful.
present.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Gayle, what's a simple tool that you use to help keep yourself grounded?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's movement. I mean, breath is definitely a tool that I use, but movement is my go-to, whether that's just going out for a walk, right? So when I'm talking about going back to what I was saying about pressure, right? And feeling the stress and sort of being in that constricted, whenever I notice that tension or that constriction, that's my signal. Get up, get out of your chair, walk around your office, get outside, go for a walk, right? And it doesn't have to be, if you have the time to go for a 10, 15 minute, 20-minute walk, great. If not, just moving. We spend so much time behind screens, right? And so much time sitting down. Stand up, stretch, move. Qigong is great. There's a little thing that I do in the morning. This isn't a technical term, but it like fluffs up the energy. It's literally just, tapping on your arm, inside, outside, right? Inside, outside. You can tap on your chest. You can tap on your back near your kidneys and down your legs and back up again. And it just it's like kind of like getting washed off, it just
Right.
dusts off the cobwebs and breaks up the energy. And that's something that can take, less than a minute, but it
Right.
moves things, it moves the energy around, but it also, like breathing and breath work, it gets you back into your body and into the present
Right.
moment.
Yeah, I love that. And actually movement is important for a variety of reasons. For one thing, you got that stress and what is that hormone? Cortisol, I think it is.
Cortisol.
Yeah, that stuff kind of collects in your body, and moving helps to get it out of your body, or at least moving so that you can get rid of it. So that movement is really, really important. And I love this idea of tapping. That's easy. Anybody can do that. And here's what's cool. You could do your breathing while you're moving.
Yes.
Hey, how about that? Sara, give us one of your favorite tools for getting back into the grounded state.
Firstly, I have a tip for you. Why don't you just give them a verbal tip, why don't you breathe today? Because of the energies that we work with, sort of some people would say, oh yes, going back, what's it, on the 4:30 at whatever, it's a dog race or a horse race or something, that's called a tip. There are so many different meanings for the word tip, and just change what that word means for you.
Oh, I got it. You're making a callback to one of the NIGs I was talking about. Okay, got it.
So I suppose what I'm, in some respects, I'm saying to anybody is, if there's a word that's being used, try and come up with another definition for it that you're comfortable with, that you can then change it. But the suggestion, to a certain degree, an aspect of Gayle's, when if you want to sort of do something like a dry bathe rather than necessarily a shower or something, but actually I'd do it whichever, I have a sort of an affirmation. So it's, I wash away negativity. I wash away fear and anxiety. I wash away negativity. I wash away hurt and pain. I wash away anger, frustration, and judgment. So every morning, as you're doing your ablutions, and because you're actually doing it while you're doing that, and that is something I do on a daily basis. So come up with it is an affirmation, but do come up with something that you feel you can do with an action that you take on a daily basis. So you're not adding to your day. Well, you are, but you're not adding to the time it takes. You're just putting yourself in a different frame of mind. Sort of, and for those of you that sort of are into the sort of thing that we're into, what I tend to do when I'm doing that is I put a healing and cleansing fire around me and a healing and cleansing stream under me, so that any negative energies that I'm brushing off are actually cleansed by the fire or the water.
And just for clarity, this is an imaginary fire and an imaginary stream.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Although I do think we've got a stream that runs under our house, but that's by the by. Right. We definitely haven't got a fire surrounding it.
So I really love that idea. So you're talking about a kind of an energetic smudge, and you use the word ablutions, which many people may not know, but I that's kind of your business in the bathroom, so to speak. In the morning or in the evening, whatever. Yeah. So you could actually be in the shower, in the physical shower, doing this, so that the water coming in, you can see this water as rays of beautiful, loving light to kind of heal you and wash off all the negativity and just recycle it down through the drain and into this stream, and surrounded by the fire that cleanses the water. You can imagine whatever you want. It's really a beautiful way of generating a peaceful flow within your body. I really love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's literally part of my daily routine.
Yeah.
And you can use those words. I wash away, and whatever feels for you to wash away. I use exactly the same words every day, but you may choose to use different ones. As you said, it's about people listening to what's being said and thinking, there's aspects of these things that I can take and I can make my own. And that's what this is all about.
Exactly. And one of the things that I like to do, I used to do men's groups. And one of the things that we did as a group, which was absolutely amazing for me, we would stand in a circle with our hands on the back of each other's, right between the shoulder blades. I have one man on my left, one man on my right. And then we would start chanting Om as a group. And it wasn't in a like in a controlled way or anything. I would inhale and just let it come out. Om. And just let it go as long as I could exhale. And that sound. And what I have discovered recently, we used to do this in the group and it was awesome. But I have found that I can do that by myself now. While I'm meditating, I get in my meditation position and I'll Om like 3, 4, 10 times, whatever I feel like. And just that vibration going through my chest creates a calmness, a serenity within me that is absolutely amazing, and it might have something to do. I don't know if frequency is an important factor here or not. I do know that for me, it's about getting the lower register of my voice, so that the voice is coming from down here in my chest rather than up here in my throat. when I do that, that vibration just feels so good and so relaxing. I kind of melt. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, just try it. And the sound might be different. The word Om is the one that I think of because that's what it sounds like to me. But Sara, you were mentioning you had a slightly different sound that you use. What was it?
It's Aum, so it's AUM.
Right. So you're actually moving and changing the formants of the sound, and that's really cool too. But either way, it doesn't matter. But I think for each of us, you try these things, try it, see how it works for you, see how you feel when you do it. It's really quite amazing how many different ways you can find to relax your body, relax your heart, relax your mind, and relax your soul. And that is the key word, isn't it? Relax.
David,
Scott, go ahead.
you've always had, and we've talked about this before, that music is a really important part of your life.
Right.
You create a lot of it, and you've put a lot of it together. For anybody, look up David and his website for the music. It's marvelous, by the way. But I find that music can temper any anger. It can temper my mood. It can change my mood. A song will come on, or a vibration will come on, and that will change how I feel at that moment because I'm transported. And all of these things that we're talking about is bringing you into the present. Fear brings you into the past, and you're fearful of the future, and you're projecting all of these bad things that might happen if I step outside of this. But being present, that is the key. And all of these things that we're doing, it brings you here and now, so that you're not reacting out of that rage or the frustration or that survival instinct. You're in the present, and you are reacting and acting and not jeopardizing your closest relationships, because they're the ones they're going to suffer from when we're like that. To be able to be present, and that's where we all of these modalities, all of these rituals, all of these techniques, all of these things that we're talking about bring you right back to you, bring you back here so that you can be present. But music does that for me, and has many, many times in walking, in riding the car, in whatever you're doing. My wife has music on all the time. She's always listening to music. It really affects her. She'll start dancing, and while she's in the kitchen doing chores, which or something that you don't necessarily want to do, but you get the music on, then you kind of go there and you can do your task. So music, I find, or vibrations, or the music, David, that you create that has a particular hertz will affect you in some way, and that's absolutely amazing. And I know, Sara, you listen. Sound is very important to you also.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I would say is every piece of music that you know of has a certain kind of central vibration, okay, and a certain frequency that it operates at. And some of those vibrations are beneficial to your body and to your mind and to your soul, and some of them not so much. So if you're going to use music as a way for relaxing and getting into this grounded inner peace state, make sure you choose music of a high vibration. When I say high vibration, I don't mean high frequency. I mean it's high quality music. You want to avoid, stuff that, the death metal, rap music, that kind of stuff is it's going to bring you down in the long run. You might get a sense of relaxation by going with the flow of that music for a little while, but in the long run, it's not as beneficial as something like a classical piece by Mozart or something like that. That actually will tend to uplift you. So keep that in mind when you're choosing whatever music it is you want to listen to. All right. But yeah, music can lead to motion, which is what Gayle was talking about, and dance. Hell, Go ahead, dance around an imaginary fire. But the whole point, and you said this, Scott, and that's really, I think, what I wanted to say earlier. Everything that we're talking about here is about coming back to the present moment. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, what's going on in your life. It doesn't really matter. If you can stay present to what's going on inside yourself and just feel it and just notice it, but have no judgment about it, simply observe it, you're going to find yourself just naturally moving into a place of inner peace pretty much all the time. So if you're having a hard time getting focused on the present, then just look at, what am I doing right now? Oh, I'm doing the dishes. Let me feel this water that I'm washing with. How does it feel? What is it? It flows. It moves. It's hot. It's cold. It's whatever it is. And I can feel on this pan that I'm cleaning, I can feel those little bumps from the dirt. Look at that. What am I doing? I'm bringing myself present into the moment. You see, that's what it's all about. So I encourage everybody to, whatever tool you want to try, make sure it involves getting present. Gayle, give us another one.
Yeah, I have 3. How about that?
Awesome.
Okay. Actually, just on the music and sound, just a little add-on for that. There's all kinds of channels, and I think you could probably, I'm thinking of YouTube, but I think you can probably get this on Spotify and Pandora as well, with that high vibration music. So you like 432 hertz is a high vibration music. So you can go and look for these things and add it to your playlist. The other thing, speaking of sound, is like, and Sarah, you probably know this better than I do, but your own voice. So simply even naming out loud, I'm feeling stressed right now. Now that would seem that might seem like, oh, I'm gonna just like stay in that place, but sometimes naming it actually gives it voice and breaks up the energy. I'm feeling stressed right now. I'm feeling stressed right now. I'm feeling stressed right now. And then maybe you start tapping like, oh my God, I'm feeling so stressed right now. You stop holding it and you start moving it, you start speaking it, and that will break up the energy and that will bring you back into the present. And then you can say, I'd like to feel whatever it is that you'd like to feel. And sure, you might feel a little awkward talking to yourself, or maybe not. I talk to myself all the time. So,
It's when you start talking back, that's when it's a problem.
Right, exactly. But just hearing your own voice, naming how you're feeling on the inside can be oddly soothing, right? And then pets. If you have pets, and if you don't have pets, just get outside, get out in nature, put your hand on a tree, put your back against the tree, lay down on the grass, put your feet on the ground, right?
Barefoot on the grass.
Barefoot, exactly. Barefoot on the grass. But pets, especially cats, again, with the sound, you guys got me thinking on the sound. One of my favorite things I used to do with my cat was just to cuddle with her, listen to her purr, feel her her fur, feel her warm little body. That is just so soothing and peaceful, right? And so, I know some people are dog people, so maybe it's a little bit different experience with dogs, but man, a cat is just amazing for getting you in a calmer, more peaceful state of mind.
That's beautiful. My dog purrs. Although somebody else who might hear that would say, no, he's growling. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. All these ideas are all so great. And first of all, I want to say thank you, Wendy, for your comments. I appreciate it. She says she always looks forward to these lives and she learns so much and it helps greatly. Well, I am glad you're here. And yeah, you're welcome to join us every month. Sara, you have another one. I can tell you're just itching to share it.
Well, I'm just thinking about sort of everything that I use on a daily basis. But I think maybe one of the most important is acknowledge yourself. It's to me, it's just so important. And I do that literally because I work with toning, but you haven't got to do it, because a lot of people would say, oh, but that's singing. But it's very specific the way that I work. So speak your name. And it doesn't have to be about surname. For me, it would always be, I always say to people, the name your mother called you as a child. And I know a lot of people say, but I don't like my name, and a number of people that have changed their name. But it's about acknowledging who you are, the whole of who you are. All those aspects that as a child, when you got told off, you probably, without registering that that's what you were doing, you think, okay, I can't be like that because I've got to keep people happy. And so we actually tend to disconnect or try to disconnect from aspects of ourselves. It's about bringing the whole of us back together. And it's also about praising yourself. It's not about waiting for anybody else to say, oh, well done, congratulations, no, you did really well with that, or whatever. You know, it's something else that I tend to do pretty much in a day. Oh, you've done really well this morning, well done. Doesn't matter. You know, I don't know whether you've seen these little comments that sometimes pop up on things like Facebook, LinkedIn, and I don't know about the others because I'm not on any of the others. It's even if you've only managed to get out of bed this morning, praise yourself for doing that. Because some days we have really bad days, and I know what that is like. I probably came as close to having, I think it was ME, as you could get without actually being diagnosed with it. Feeling shattered the minute you made a single move, you know, sort of, and having to sit down. It's just, you give yourself the praise, the acknowledgement that you're waiting for from others. Because you're just saying to yourself, I see you, I hear you, I'm listening to you, I love you, I care about you. And it has to come from you first.
Right.
And it's amazing how that can build you up. And then when you get somebody who says something that maybe isn't particularly nice, you can think, okay, but that's their stuff. That's not mine.
Right.
And helps you to let go of other people. And we've talked about judgment from other people probably on numerous occasions, but it helps you to let go of that judgment of others, keeping you in that centered space of self, and therefore keeping you sort of hopefully calmer and more at peace with who you are.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love this. Self-acknowledgement, self-appreciation, self-acceptance. All of these things are so important in life. And you notice the words that I'm using: self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-appreciation, self-care. All of those words are stated in the present tense. It's not something you're going to do tomorrow. It's not something, well, you might have done it yesterday or the last week. It's something you're going to practice doing right now. And you want to bring that into the moment. And one of the things that I know is there's a power of gratitude. You know, gratitude is, I think, one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Gratitude and forgiveness, they're close cousins for sure. But one of the challenges that I've had, and Scott, I know you've shared this before, is finding things to be grateful for. Well, here's a little suggestion for you. We've already talked about the breath. So why don't you do a simple little exercise for yourself where you're sitting down and maybe you do the 4 square breathing for a bit. And then when you're done, you just stop and you say, okay, take a breath and just say, oh, I'm so grateful for that breath. Nothing else. Take another deep breath. I'm so grateful that that breath fills me with life and love. Do it another one. I'm so grateful that that breath reminds me of my dog lying here on the floor, who just brings me so much companionship and love in my life. You see how easy that was? That just came to me in this moment. I wasn't even thinking about what I was really grateful for, but I started with my breath. And then I started thinking, well, what's my breath do for me? You see, these are things that you could do in 3, 4, 5 minutes of time a day. And before you know it, you're going to start writing down huge, long lists of all the things you're grateful for. So, like everything else that we share on this program, don't try to be the expert who does it all on the first day. Instead, pick something that feels good in your heart and go try it. Maybe you'll say, yeah, that doesn't work so much for me. Oh, great, no problem. Find another one, find a different one. Or maybe take the one that doesn't work for you and modify it. That's what we're here. That's what we're all about. Take one small step each time. That's all. Scott, I'm sorry. I saw that you were.
No,
you wanted to say something.
You brought
so
up exactly what I was going to say, and that is gratitude. It is the greatest form. When I was at my lowest, I was asked, name 3 things you're grateful for, and at that moment in my life, I could not think of 3 things. And much like you said, someone says, "What are you grateful for today?" And I could go on for hours, because it is a perception of where you are. It is being grateful. Gratitude is a powerful force. Love may be the first, but gratitude is a very close second to being powerful, in that it changes how you act and react to everything around you. If you are grateful for the ability to, we take for granted, oh, I live in a house. Oh, you have a house. You should be very grateful for that. You have a roof over your head, because there are so many people in this world that do not have any of those things. And it's just so powerful to be able to do that. And gratitude, I really give props to gratitude for taking me out of just the worst time of my life, because I found it. And every morning I got up and I was thankful that woke up, and that's how I started the day, that I was thankful for that. And it's absolutely wonderful.
Just one little thing on verbiage here. I want to be really careful and encourage people, don't should on yourself. You don't have to be grateful. You don't have to do any of the stuff that we do. You have the option. You can do it if you want, but you're not required. There is nothing wrong with you at this moment. There is nothing wrong with any of us here. So when we invite you into doing something, it's not like you should do this in order to get inner peace or any of that stuff. These are things that work for me. These are things that work for Gayle. These are things that work for Scott. And these are things that work for Sara. And some of us share these things. Sometimes we do what the other person suggests. And I find that just by trying something that, like, I'm not really a huge dancer, but sometimes just listening to music does cause me to want to move, And so if I'm going to dance, I'll do it quietly in the privacy of my own dark bedroom. I don't really want people to see me dancing. But, that's because of my own self, what is the word I'm looking for here? Self-image issues, But then every once in a while, the little boy in me wakes up and says, to hell with you, I want to dance. And I start getting this crazy, weird ass dancing that people laugh at, because there's David making a fool of himself again, So I just wanted to be sure that you understand that we're not asking you to do anything that you don't really, in your heart and soul, feel that is right for you to do. Okay? So I'm going to leave it there. Gayle, what do you have?
Yeah, I love that. Trust your intuition, trust what you're drawn to. Maybe it's something that we haven't talked about today, but perhaps the conversation has the creative juices flowing. And I think the other piece too is that it's good to switch things up, right? We all have spoken about our regular practices, and they all look different for each of us. And sometimes we need to switch up our own practices, right? Because it can kind of get stale or stagnant, or maybe it doesn't have the same effect. So I just wanted to speak to that as well, as
Yeah,
if
that's a good point.
you try something and it works for you, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work for you, doesn't mean anything's wrong. It might just be a signal of, oh, maybe I want to try something new and let this go. Or maybe I want to take the thing that I've been practicing and pair it with something new. And then you can stack things, as you go along. But it's like, I mean, these are things, this is like food for your soul. But it also reminds me of, if anybody's, done fitness or exercise or what have you, your body gets used to it and you have to switch up the routine. So it's the same thing for your soul. So yeah, hopefully those who are with us here live, that you try some of these things, or you go out and do your own research on what might feel good for you. And come back and tell us what what you experienced and what it was like, and what you're noticing about, maybe
Yeah.
sound is your thing, maybe movement is your thing, maybe it's breath, maybe it's yoga. um, there's no shortage of ideas to help you pour back into yourself and to cultivate that peace from within. Because I think a lot of times we're looking outside of ourselves. We're looking for somebody else to give it to us or grant it to us. And it's really about, we talked about this on the last episode, how do you be the peace? And these are some ways to try that on.
Right. Something you said, I just triggered a thought, and I want to remind people about this too. I don't know if you watch sports or whatever, but I'll just pick one example, like marathon running. If you happen to watch people in a marathon run, especially these really super fast runners, people who can maintain a 5-minute mile over 26 miles and complete the run in 2 miles or 2 hours and 2 minutes or something, you have to understand that those people didn't get that way the first time they put on a pair of running shoes. They put hours and hours and hours and hours and months and years of effort and practice to get to that stage where they're able to do that on a regular basis. So it's really, really important. And to come back to your other point about how the body gets used to certain things, when you get to that stage of being that kind of a runner, your body does know exactly how to do it, right? So some of the things that we're describing might feel a little uncomfortable at first. Discomfort doesn't mean that you should stop. It might be necessary for you to find a different way of doing it. That is true. But the discomfort is just your body saying, hey, I'm not used to this. That's all. So give yourself permission to try and to do repeat efforts. And I tell you, it reaches, I remember when I started doing yoga, how much some of those moves hurt my body. And it didn't hurt it in a bad way. It just was, oh my God, I can't believe they want my body to bend in this way. But now I do it and it's like painless. So I encourage you to just try stuff. See what works for you. Notice what's happening and maybe write some journaling about your experience. Spend some time writing down how you felt. What did you get out of it and that sort of thing. All right, we're getting close to the top of the hour, so I want to wrap this up. And Sara, I know you have to get going, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to close us out with the first, whatever you'd like to close us out with.
One of the things I do on a daily basis is in the morning, I open the curtains and I look out the window and I say good morning to Mother Earth, to nature. And I then in the evening, I love to look out the window and it's the good night. And I love to look up at the stars and the moon when it's not cloudy. And if that's part of gratitude, it's part of gratitude. But it's my good morning to the world, it's my good night to the world. It's an acknowledgement of the whole, of all of us, of the everything, because we are all connected. And it's that ability for Mother Earth and for the all that is above. If that's something that speaks to you, being able to do that, good morning and good night. Speak to your angels, your guides, your guardians, if that resonates with you. That is something else I also do on a daily basis. And they are there to support us. We have to ask. Then we have to be quiet and listen for the replies.
Right. Well, thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
Scott, final words?
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Really grateful for all of these. And for anybody listening, David is absolutely right. First time I did yoga, I thought I could never move again. And I do it on a daily basis now, and it just gets better. And I modify it constantly to enact different parts of my body. But it's stretching your imagination. It's stretching your understanding. It's just stretching and allowing you to be more each and every day. And I encourage anyone to just try something different. Amazed at what your body, your mind, and your spirit will fall in love with.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Scott. Gayle?
Yeah, I want to bring it back to the word peace, because I think sometimes we have this dualistic way of thinking, or polarized way of thinking. Maybe that's more accurate, right? And so we might think that, well, if I cultivate peace, then I never feel chaos. And that's not what we're talking about here. You cultivate peace, maybe in peaceful times, so that when the chaos comes, you know how to stay in the moment and stay grounded and present and rooted in yourself no matter what comes. So we talked in the beginning about the cost of stress and chaos and being swept away by that kind of energy, and the benefit of trying these practices, or coming up with your own practice, is so that you don't eliminate stress and conflict, and because it's impossible, you're expanding your capacity to navigate that, to be with that, and still feel grounded and rooted and centered in yourself.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you, Gayle. I think that the message here is pretty clear. If you want peace in the world, you have to start by bringing peace into yourself. And all of us contribute to that with our own individual ways of developing that inner peace. And I think what will happen is the more of us who do this, the greater the impact will be on the outer world, and we'll begin to see chaos happening less and less and less. That doesn't mean it'll never, that doesn't mean there will be a time when chaos never happens. I think we got to have some chaos in order to enjoy our lives, but a little too much chaos is a little too much chaos, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I want to thank you all for being here and for participating in this this live presentation. I hope you got some value out of this this show and learned some tools that you can take home and use for yourself, or at least got a little bit inspired about how you might create a tool for yourself that works. That's my hope for you. So I'd like to just remind you that I keep recordings of this and every other episode of this program on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. So you can go back, you can go check those out. And they're also going to show up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which is Your Life Mastery Coach. And yeah, I hope to see you again soon, all of you. Meanwhile, thank you, Gayle and Scott and Sara, for being here today. It's always a joy to share this space with you. And I guess with all that, I'm going to say thank you all for being here. I wish you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. We'll see you next time on Soul Empowerment. Bye-bye.